sighed. Where was the adventure he read about in library books? In my imagination and nowhere else, that's where, he told himself. Andrew was halfway along the elm tree-lined dike road when he decided to pretend that he was a spy, creeping up on the Vetstra's house. He checked to see that no one was watching, and then he ducked behind a bush. Slowly, he crept up to the window of the house. He had to step over a spare pane of glass that was propped against the house. He peered in the window and watched Mrs. Vetstra humming to herself as she put a tray of cookies into the wood stove. Suddenly, Andrew was struck with an idea. What if he climbed up on the roof and blocked the chimney with a pane of glass at his feet? How funny it would be to see the smoke billowing into the kitchen and Mrs. Vetstra trying to figure out what had happened. It would be funny, too, to see whether Mr. and Mrs. Vetstra got really angry once they discovered that their chimney had been deliberately blocked. Andrew had never seen a member of the Vetstra family frustrated or upset. The Vetstras were the holy rollers of the village, always reminding others to praise God when things went wrong. It would be interesting to see what they did when things went wrong. Why, they might even cuss. With this happy thought in mind, Andrew grabbed the pane of glass and crept around to the side of the house to where a ladder lay against the wall. He slipped off his wooden clogs and started climbing the ladder, using one hand to steady himself and holding the glass pane in the other. At the top of the ladder, he transferred himself to the thatched roof of the Vetstra house, keeping a low profile and doing constant reconnaissance in case someone glanced up at him. Then, he silently balanced the glass pane on top of the chimney. Immediately, wisps of smoke began to collect under it. Quickly, Andrew climbed down the ladder and took up his former position behind the bush and waited. Mrs. Vetstra was no longer in the kitchen, but it was only a minute or two before she came rushing back. She took one look at the smoky room, let out a little scream, opened the oven door, and started fanning the oven with her apron. She looked so comical that it was all Andrew could do to stop himself from laughing out loud. Mr. Vetstra soon bounded into the kitchen and peered at the stove. Then he spun around, ran out the door, and shot up the ladder. Andrew watched as he pulled the pane of glass from the chimney top and looked around. Andrew ducked low behind the bush. His heart raced. Had Mr. Vetstra seen him? He didn't think so. Balancing the glass pane in one hand, Mr. Vetstra climbed back down the ladder, set the glass where Andrew had found it, and went inside. Andrew heard him explaining to his wife what had happened as Mrs. Vetstra fanned the last few wisps of smoke out the window. It was a confusing moment for Andrew, who had expected some show of anger, some flicker of frustration. Mr. and Mrs. Vetstra must have known that someone had put the glass on top of their chimney. Yet neither of them seemed concerned about the incident. Why was that? Andrew decided not to think about it any more. Since it was time to collect Bastian and bring him home for the evening, Andrew slipped out of his hiding place and continued along the dike road toward his home. Sure enough, his oldest brother Bastian, or Bas, as everyone called him, was standing by the third elm tree on the left. He stood there every day for hours on end, watching the people of the village go about their business. He never said a word to anyone. In fact, he couldn't speak at all. Although he was 6 years older than Andrew, he had to be treated like the baby of the family. It was easy for even a stranger to see that something was very wrong with Bas. Bas lived in his own little world, a world consisting of being dressed by his mother in the morning, standing under the elm tree during the day, and eating meals. But oddly enough, there was one thing that Bas could do better than anyone else in his family, or in the entire village for that matter. He could play music. That evening, like every other evening after dinner, Andrew's father got up from the table, declared the meal to have been wonderful, settled himself at the pump organ, and began to play. Mr. Van Der Bijl did not seem to notice that his stiff, leathery fingers did not always hit the keys properly.